People who have had a threesome. How did it go? Story 1. Didn't actually have a threesome, but I got pretty close. I've been told it's a funny story. I had just finished my senior in high school at the time and I was enjoying my summer before going off to college. I had moved into the pool house attached to my parents' house for the summer so I could basically come and go as I pleased. One night I was hanging out with my friend down the street at his house and a few other people that lived in the neighborhood. After a bit of drinking, one of the girls asked if I wanted to just hang out with her and her best friend. Alone, me being drunk and oblivious to what they had in mind, invited them over to watch me play video games. I don't know what I was thinking. They agreed and we walked to my house and straight into the pool house. My parents were out at a dinner with friends. Usually that meant them being out fairly late. Anyways, we got to my room and they both laid down on the bed. I went to the bathroom to pee and when I came out they were both topless and giggling. Game on. I dove right in and before I knew it I was half naked and we were doing some heavy petting. Just as things were heating up I heard the door to my parents' house open and close. I could faintly hear footsteps outside. I leapt out of bed and ran to the door and was met by my mother. So at this time I'm fully excited if you know what I mean. And I'm awkwardly hiding halfway behind the cracked door. I tried playing it cool and I was like, "Oh hey ma, what's up?" Of course my mom saw right through me and realized something was up. She pushed the door open and saw these two girls struggling to cover up and put their bras back on. She gasped and ran back to the house. I ran after her while trying to put on some shorts. I heard my mom scream to my dad, "Let's call him Robert. Robert, he's got two girls back there." And then my dad surprised me by being pretty cool about it. He yelled back to my mom, "Let's call her Beth. Beth, leave him alone." My mom went upstairs and when I went back to the pool house the girls were gone. Story 2. I've had a threesome with two guys. They were friends, we were hanging out drinking, ended up really wasted. One of them was trying to get with me. I was kissing him but not really interested in taking it further. We went to bed, still kissing but I was planning to go to sleep. We've shared a bed before and nothing's happened. Then the other guy came and got into bed and kissed me, and they were both touching me. So I kind of thought, frick it, it'd be an interesting experience. The next day I was super hungover and went home. I didn't feel awkward, just ill from all the alcohol. Nothing's happened between any of us since and we don't really talk about it. But it definitely showed me that I prefer one-on-one intercourse, mostly for the intimacy. Story 3. I've been in 2 actual threesomes and 2 fizzled attempts at them. My first ever threesome was when I was 16. And it took place in a hot tub at a friend's New Year's Eve party. That sentence alone should be enough to tell you that it didn't go well. For as arousing or sensual as hanging out in a hot tub might be, it's not really the best place to do your naughty dance. Still, hormones were bubbling, and the 2 girls I was with, one of whom was my girlfriend at the time, were both eager, so we gave it a shot. Unfortunately, the entire thing only lasted about 5 minutes before a combination of awkwardness and physical discomfort brought it to a premature end. We'd tried group kissing, which my girlfriend had insisted was a thoroughly pleasurable endeavor, and a lot of mutual touching, but nothing was especially stimulating for anyone. My girlfriend got frustrated, our mutual friend got bored, and we all decided that maybe playing ping pong in the garage was more fun after all. The next time that I had a threesome, if you could even call it having one, which I wouldn't, went even less well. I'd made plans with an acquaintance to visit her apartment, get drunk with her and a random girl that she'd allegedly found on Craigslist, and then see where the evening took us. There was only one catch. Since the young woman hosting the event had already started drinking, I'd have to be the one to pick up our third partner. To make a long story short, it turned out that the 2 of them had already known each other, and that I'd been used as a free taxi service. I wound up leaving, at their request, within 10 minutes of arrival. Now, with both of those failed attempts under my belt, you'd think that I'd have an aversion to threesomes. Or maybe you wouldn't, I don't know. The point is that I tried again, with different women, several years later, and it actually turned out to be a really good experience for all of us. We started off by playing strip Scrabble, the rules for which we kind of invented on the fly. Basically, anytime someone scored 50 points or higher, the other 2 people would have to remove a piece of clothing. That requisite point value declined as the game went on, and by the time we'd used all of the tiles, we'd resorted to offering silly dares, since we'd run out of clothes to remove. At one point, I was tasked with imitating a Star Trek character while doing the helicopter junk across my bedroom. Not long after that, we all adjourned to my bed and jumped into more direct sexuality. We had some laughs in trying to figure out the mechanics, and at one point, completely by accident, I swear, I went in through the wrong entrance, but on the whole, it was a lighthearted and enjoyable evening. I had a second threesome with the same two girls a few months after that, and it was even better. I know you were probably expecting a story of things going catastrophically wrong, but honestly, it was as simple and casual as having a group conversation. My opinion on the matter is that everyone needs to be sane, honest, and uncomplicated. If you're all just there to have fun, even the most awkward moment can be a building block for an entertaining memory. Just be sure you get your angle of entry right. Story 4. Last summer, my husband and I tried to make a triangle work with one of my friends. We had loads of difficulties, and it has since ended, but the one thing that worked fine was the intercourse. We had several threesomes, the first of which was away from home when we were staying in Belgium to go hiking. It was exactly what a first time should be like: fun, exciting, a little scary, and very intense. My husband and I were both starting to fall in love with her, and it felt both safe and completely new. The aftermath, however, wasn't so great. The woman in question is very, very intelligent, funny, versatile, etc., but also a little scary. Think sociopathic tendencies, which come out when she feels vulnerable or unsure. She lashed out badly. Still, I wish that it had worked out. She can be amazing, and I miss her. And the intercourse was fantastic, both as threesomes and as pairings, for all of us. Story 5. Finally, story time. One of my best friends in high school and college was dating this girl for a while. They were into the open relationships. He knew she wanted to frick me, and I was always down for some strange. They went to college out of state, but came home to visit one time. He called me and explained that there was a family thing going on that wasn't really for girlfriends, and asked if I would host her for a night. He said she was probably bringing a friend. At this point, I knew what I was up for. What I didn't expect was him sending her with enough cash to buy all three of us dinner, and enough liquor to have a party. The three of us and my roommate and his fiancée play drinking games and get steadily drunker and more raunchy. My roommate and his fiancée step out for a second, and girl number 1 leans over and says, "You know, we're having a threesome tonight, right?" And then bit my ear, which is a huge turn on. We eventually ended up in my room. Girl number 1 got tied to the futon while I played with girl number 2. We all played for a while, then went to the shower where the girls played with the removable shower head, and I made use of whatever hole I was presented with. It wasn't great. I wasn't comfortable. I felt like I was performing the whole time. I wasn't that attracted to the girls, and I felt like it was an opportunity I had to take because it was there. They fell asleep and I went up to the couch. They left in the morning and left all the liquor, so that was nice. 2/10 probably wouldn't do again. Hello, the editor here. That last story was too cool. Like and subscribe for more. Story 6. Finally, my time to shine has come. Several summers ago, I was out at a club with a buddy. Let's call him Kyle. We both frequent the place because the drinks are cheap and it's relatively easy to pick up women. I knew a waitress there and knew she had a thing for me. I was 21, she was 37. I never capitalized on her attraction to me, mostly because there were usually better-looking girls who were just as willing to go home for the night. On this particular night, however, I was tired and didn't feel like laying groundwork with anyone. So as the night wore on, I approached her and told her she should take me home once she was off work. Kyle had been striking out all night, so I threw in Kyle should come along too. She eyed him up and down for about 2 seconds before nodding in approval, so it was on. So the bar closes, and the waitress, we'll call her Trina, gives us a ride back to her place in a minivan, while Kyle and I drunkenly exchange glances that say frick it, may as well. Trina has a small house and we follow her to her bedroom and proceed with the spit roast, Chinese finger trap, whatever you want to call it. She looks decent naked. Now here's where it gets weird for me. Kyle has the bottom, and I get the top mouth, and he spanks her really hard and says, "Suck it, Trina." So he's urging her to slob my knob harder, which strikes me as weird because even though I'm fully aware of the other guy in the room, I'm only paying attention to what's going on my end. That's the only way I was comfortable. I stay on my side, he stays on his, and we only pay attention to Trina, and like gentlemen, we ignore one another. A little later, we've switched ends and I'm giving Trina my A+ effort, hoping to wrap this up and call it a night. I'm approaching my vinegar strokes when again, Kyle interferes with my concentration by yelling, "Work your hips, B." At this point, I'm done. I remove myself from the scenario and walk into her bathroom, furiously scrubbing my dong and using her hand towel to dry it, then walking back through the bedroom to reach the living room, where I could wait out the awkwardness. Boy, was I wrong. I enter the living room to see that the TV is on, and remember it being off earlier. That year's Madden game was paused on the screen, and I immediately realize I've made a mistake. Sitting right there on the couch eyeing me suspiciously is her teenage son. We lock eyes for what felt like an eternity, and I do the only thing I can think of. I say, "You playing Madden?" Another pause, and he says, "Yeah." Yet another pause, and I'm about to run out of the house, but then I say, "You want to play?" And he agreed. So we're sitting there playing Madden. Me and this 15-year-old kid, while you can still clearly hear Kyle slam banging his mother in the next room, and I try to make the best of a crappy situation, so I let the kid win. Once Kyle and Trina finished up, she gave us a ride home in her minivan. We never spoke of that night again. However, 2 weeks later I'm in a different bar, this time with my buddy James. And no crap, Trina walks in. Before I can get a word out, James points her out and says, "Bro, about a month ago, me and my buddy tag-teamed that girl." Edit. Firstly, thanks for gold, kind stranger. Secondly, my buddy James at the end teamed that same woman with a different friend, not Kyle. We'll call James' tag team partner Ron. Story 7. Finally, a chance to share. It was about 5 years ago. I had a 22Y divided by O employee, girl, which upon starting to work for me showed interest. We became Facebook friends and did a lot of chatting. She became friends with my wife as well. Oh yeah, I'm married. One night over a FB chat which got intimate, she mentioned that she always wanted to join a couple. I joked about it but was super turned on from the idea as my wife, and I always thought about it but never acted. About a week of continued chatting and she started getting both of us hotter by presenting the what if rules. No one falls in love, I'll just be one time, no anal, etc. She started luring me at work until one morning when I picked her up on my way to work and took her to see the ocean on our way, where we made out for an hour or so. We scheduled a Saturday for her to come over and watch the X-Men trilogy at our flat. She sat on the second couch during the first one, far from my wife and me. On the second movie she moved closer and snuck kisses with me when my wife went to the bathroom. Mid-movie she put her hand on my thigh and got my wife's attention. I kissed my wife and my wife put her hand on hers. I kissed her and she leaned to kiss my wife. Best intercourse ever. 3 minutes 4 hours. We ended up breaking all rules. Almost got a divorce. Spent 3 months with her. Realized what a mistake I've done. Begged wife to take me back. Had to quit my job as it became awkward. Story 8. Last year with my ex-boyfriend and some girl we go to college with. She was screaming the whole time while the three of us were fricking, and was so loud that the people in the dorms around us could hear and were listening through the door and knocking. But I squirted for the first time, so I got that going for me, which is nice. Story 9. My husband and I have done FFM and MFM. Foursomes too, though those never really worked out. The FFM was fine, at least for the two of us. If I'm doing it, I'm either going to have a good time or I'm just not going to waste my time. Even though it was the other woman's idea, she just kind of laid there. It didn't really seem like she wanted to touch us much, and whenever she'd get close to orgasm, she'd push us away. She also seemed really grossed out by my squirting. Which, okay, I'll admit, it can be a bit shocking, but I've only met a couple of people who were turned off by it. Most seem to really enjoy it. If nothing else, they know I'm not faking. It was a bit awkward, given that she seemed a bit grossed out at times, but she didn't want to stop. That led to quiet moments where we were just kind of sitting around, trying to figure out what to do next. The MFM was awesome. My husband didn't enjoy it as much as I did. But he's one of those rare gems that actually really enjoys pleasuring women, so he at least loved that part. It was a birthday present from my husband. We discussed the idea, talked about how we wanted to go, and found a guy. The morning of my birthday, the guy claimed to have an emergency at work, but my taller half promised to make it up to me. So he tied me down, blindfolded me, and he started, well, you know. Then he had to run downstairs to let the dogs back in. I didn't fall for it, of course, and knew immediately that there was someone else there. They tried to cover it up by using my husband's cologne, but he's been wearing the same scent since I met him, so I know how it smells on him as opposed to on someone else. But still, so worth it. So many orgasms, which is par for the course for me, but when one needed a break, he could just tag in the other. The only real awkwardness here was it was only the second time that there had been another exposed junk in the room. But he seemed to get over that quickly. The foursomes didn't go quite so well. In fact, they were all just big awkward sundaes with a little cherry of awkwardness on top. We've tried 3 times, and every time I was left with a limp junk and a jealous and uninterested guy. 3 different couples, and every damn time, the guy was having a great time until his wife started wailing like a banshee. It didn't help that one of the women was supposed to be difficult to get off, and another had never orgasmed from oral. Having played with her husband, I can understand why. Other than playing with my own husband, the only time I had any fun in any of these encounters was when the other guy went to get a drink and I ditched him to join in with my husband and the other woman. Story 10. Guy here, been in a few, both MMF and MFF. Eiffel Towering girls in college was an old pastime with some buddies and me. It started as a joke that we didn't actually think was going to escalate, and the first girl we did it to went with it. The awkward moment was when we saw each other's junks and giggled. First one. The other awkward moment is when a buddy and I each end for a hole, and while he was all about it I could feel him balls deep in her while I was balls deep in her, and I realized his thrusting junk was rubbing against mine, and I just realized it was too much for me and switched back to her mouth. Only awkward thing I remember from my MFF was that it was two childhood best friends from a small town, and things escalated and it got wild. We are talking a girl on each side of my junk licking and kissing up and then making out on the head and going down on each other. After we finished and the adrenaline wore off, they were left knowing that they crossed a line they didn't expect to cross. It was weird with them for a few weeks after. Story 11. Both sad and funny. We were young and desperate. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. My ex-girlfriend was gradually coming to terms with her bisexuality as our relationship was coming to its end. We were 20. We both tried to spice things up with toys and romantic picnics and such, but as much we loved each other, it dawned on us that we were too young to be together forever. She always had a thing for her friend H in a way. So did I, but as a guy, you cannot initiate the talk about a threesome. It's a classic idiot move. The chorus of Dirty Angels in my head when she asked me still ring in my ears 6 years later. The whole thing was very interesting, not like any porno I had ever seen. The awkward touching, the small steps, the reassuring looks, is this okay? Are you sure? It took a while for it to start up and get heated, and when it did there was no stopping us. The awkward moment. Don't climax on top of the bedguest. Save the best for you. So in this kind of situation, during the last months of our relationship that came up more than once, but overall, 8/10 would do again.